The look that ended his career after 15 years of loyalty and building the agency's biggest clients from scratch. I was fired by the new CEO who called me outdated, but at his grand corporate gala, the look on his face proved that he had just underestimated the wrong person, or 15 years. She dedicated her life to building the agency's client base, nurturing relationships, and working tirelessly behind the scenes. When the new CEO arrives, confident, young, and dismissive, she is suddenly deemed outdated and unfit for the company she helped grow. Crushed but not defeated, she begins her journey to rebuild everything on her own terms. With courage, creativity, and relentless determination, she wins back former clients, grows her own thriving agency, and quietly outshines the very person who cast her aside. The story culminates at a glamorous corporate gala, where her hard work, perseverance, and expertise shine brighter than anyone could have imagined. One look from her former CEO captures the moment of poetic justice, a testament that loyalty and experience can never be replaced by arrogance or flash. A powerful tale of betrayal, resilience, and triumph. This story proves that the right person, underestimated for too long, can rise stronger than anyone expects. 15 years of loyalty. The office smelled of coffee, old carpet, and ambition, a familiar mix that had become the backdrop of my life for the past 15 years. 15 years of building clients from the ground up, of fighting impossible deadlines, of staying late night after night while everyone else went home. 15 years of loyalty, dedication, and sacrifice. I glanced around the office one last time before the weekend. Laptops hummed softly, sticky notes, crowded monitors, and a faint scent of ink lingered from the printouts scattered on desks. I remembered my first big client, a small tech startup no one believed in. They had trusted me when no one else would. I nurtured them, defended them, and eventually, they became the backbone of the agency's success. Another late night, came a familiar voice. I turned to see Clara, my colleague and longtime friend, holding a mug of coffee. She had been here almost as long as I had. Someone has to make sure the work actually gets done, I said with a small smile. Clara laughed softly. 15 years and you still run this place quietly from the background. Don't ever change. You know that? I nodded, but a small pang of unease sat in my chest. The office felt different lately. The old CEO had retired last month, and while the transition had been smooth on the surface, there was an unspoken tension in the air. Change was coming, and I had the nagging feeling it wasn't coming for me. I walked past the large glass windows and looked out at the city skyline. The sun was setting, bathing the skyscrapers in orange light. 15 years of my life had been spent climbing these buildings, metaphorically and literally, and I wasn't sure if anyone would notice if I disappeared tomorrow. Enter the new CEO. The following Monday, a ripple ran through the office. A man in a tailored suit entered the building with a confident stride, polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. His presence was impossible to ignore. I'm Jake Milton, he announced, with a grin, looking around the office. We're going to shake things up. I observed quietly from my desk as he shook hands with colleagues, a practiced charm on his face. Some of the younger employees looked thrilled, some curious, while I felt an unease curling in my stomach. Jake was young, maybe in his early 30s, with sharp features and a slick hairstyle. His charisma was undeniable, but so was the arrogance. The way he glanced at the older employees like me made it clear he valued flashy ideas over experience. During the first meeting, I suggested a campaign approach grounded in data we had accumulated over the years. He barely looked at the report before interrupting. Old-fashioned methods won't cut it anymore, he said, dismissively. We need something bold, something viral, something exciting. I clenched my fists under the table but forced a polite smile. Data-driven strategies have kept our top clients happy for years, I replied. He waved a hand, brushing my point aside. We're thinking bigger now. Trust me, the future doesn't wait. That was the first time I realized my expertise might no longer matter. The betrayal came abruptly. A meeting invitation. Office, 3 p.m. now. My stomach sank as I walked down the corridor, heart thumping. I opened the door to find Jake standing behind his sleek new desk. Have a seat, he said, his voice casual, but there was an edge I hadn't heard before. You're outdated, he said after a pause. His eyes skimmed my resume like it was yesterday's news. Your methods don't fit our vision. We're going in a new direction. Shock, humiliation, anger, all at once. I stared at him, trying to find words. 15 years. 15 years of late nights, sacrifices, client calls, and campaigns he couldn't even begin to understand. And it was over with one sentence. I packed my desk while whispers followed me down the hall. Some colleagues looked sympathetic. Others avoided eye contact. Clara gave me a small, sorrowful nod. But it did little to soothe the sting. By the time I left the office, the city lights reflected my turmoil, bright and indifferent. Rock bottom, that apartment was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the occasional car passing outside. I sank onto the couch, the cardboard box of my office belongings still unopened beside me. Bills lay scattered across the coffee table, each one a reminder that loyalty didn't pay the rent. I ran my hands over my face and let the exhaustion wash over me. 15 years of effort, 15 years of dedication, gone. All because someone younger and flashier decided my experience wasn't relevant anymore. For days, I barely moved from that couch. My phone vibrated intermittently, but I ignored it. Emails from former colleagues and friends offered sympathetic words, but nothing more. I felt hollow, discarded, and painfully small. Then, a call came. "Hello," I answered, my voice hoarse from weeks of silence. "Hey, it's David," said the voice of a client I had personally nurtured for years. "We need you. No one else understands our business like you do." My hands trembled. I blinked back tears. I don't know if I just hear me out. "We're willing to work around your schedule. Let's talk." For the first time in weeks, hope flickered. Perhaps losing everything wasn't the end. Perhaps this was the beginning. I spent the night drafting emails, reaching out to old contacts, and dusting off my portfolio. Each message I sent felt like a small act of rebellion. A whisper to the universe that I wasn't finished yet. By the time the city lights faded into dawn, I had a plan. I would rebuild. Not for anyone else. Not for the company that discarded me, but for myself. Planting the seeds, the small office space smelled faintly of paint and fresh carpet. It was nothing like the towering agency I had left behind, but it was mine. Bare walls, a single desk, and a second-hand chair, the beginnings of something new. I sat at the desk, laptop open, and stared at the blinking cursor. The silence was different here, not oppressive like at home, but filled with potential. Every email I drafted, every call I made, was a brick in the foundation of a new empire built on my own terms. The first few days were exhausting. I reached out to former clients, some skeptical, others curious. Each response was a mix of surprise and admiration. They remembered me, not the flashy new CEO, not the corporate brand, but me, the woman who had guided them through campaigns, deadlines, and crises. At night, I sketched ideas on a whiteboard, creating a vision board filled with logos and strategies. I imagined a company that valued relationships, integrity, and creativity over trends and buzzwords. Clara visited one evening. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, smiling. "You look different," she said, determined. "I mean, you've got fire in your eyes again." "I do," I said, smiling faintly. "I'm not going to let anyone define my worth again. Not him, not anyone." With each passing day, my confidence grew. Clients began to trickle in, tentative at first, but with trust in their voices. By the end of the month, the little office was buzzing, phones rang, emails poured in, and I realized something remarkably was free. Free from politics, free from arrogance, free to build something that truly mattered, and for the first time in weeks, I felt alive. Gathering momentum, the city skyline glimmered through the office windows as I sat at my desk. Phone pressed to my ear, a smile tugging at the corners of my lips. One by one, clients were returning, drawn back not by flashy pitches or corporate promises, but by trust, experience, and genuine care. "Absolutely," I said into the phone, signing another contract. "We'll start immediately, and I'll personally oversee the campaign." I hung up and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Another win. Another step forward. The small office was beginning to feel alive, buzzing with purpose. I had hired a few trusted colleagues, people who believed in me, who shared my vision of honesty and dedication over gimmicks and trends. Together, we worked late nights, crafting campaigns that were thoughtful, strategic, and innovative in their own quiet way. Jake Milton, I was sure, had no idea what was happening. He was probably strutting around his office, counting on flashy campaigns and trendy gimmicks to keep clients loyal. But loyalty, as I knew, wasn't bought with gimmicks. It was earned through years of dedication, through trust built over time, and I had plenty of that. One afternoon, as I reviewed a new campaign with my team, a notification popped up. A former client had publicly endorsed our new agency on social media. The comments and likes poured in within hours. It was subtle, but it was growing into something powerful. Clara leaned over my shoulder. "You're really doing it, aren't you?" she said, smiling. "I am," I replied, eyes glinting with determination. "And I'm just getting started." For the first time since Jake had fired me, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a force. And with every client we brought on board, every successful campaign, that force only grew stronger. The rivalry, the tension in the city office was palpable, though it wasn't mine. Jake Milton was furious. I could almost see the steam rising from his perfectly tailored suit as he paced his office, conference calls running late into the night. Clients were leaving his agency, one after another, quietly slipping into the safety of my new firm. It began with subtle warnings, emails from former clients questioning his new strategies, small accounts quietly pulling out. But soon, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Jake's arrogance could no longer mask his frustration. In the boardroom, I imagined him slamming his fist on the table. "How is this happening?" he must have shouted, the words sharp enough to cut glass. His team, once eager, now looked at him with a mixture of anxiety and disbelief. Their faith in his vision was wavering. Meanwhile, in my own office, things were thriving. I sat with my team, watching as our newest client signed a multi-year contract. The gratitude in their eyes reminded me why I had chosen this path. Every step, every decision, every late night, it was all worth it. "Do you think he realizes yet?" Clara asked, sipping her coffee. I smiled, a slow, knowing smile. "He'll find out soon enough." There was a thrill in watching him scramble, powerless to stop what I had started. The rivalry wasn't about vengeance, it was about proving that experience, integrity, and dedication were worth more than arrogance and flash. And yet, I couldn't deny it. A small, sweet part of me savored the quiet satisfaction of his growing panic. For years, he had underestimated me. Now, he was learning just how costly that mistake could be. The gala, the grand ballroom shimmered under glittering chandeliers, the soft hum of conversation and clinking glasses filling the air. It was the agency's annual gala, a celebration of success and influence. And I had arrived not as an employee, not as an afterthought, but as a guest of honor. The moment I stepped through the doors, the room seemed to shift. Heads turned not out of obligation, but out of genuine admiration. Clients who had once trusted me now whispered my name, shaking hands and congratulating me on the remarkable work my agency had done in such a short time. I wore a sleek black evening gown that hugged my silhouette with understated elegance. My hair was swept back, eyes sparkling with confidence that no suit or boardroom could ever conceal. Each step I took was deliberate, controlled, a silent statement that I belonged here not just in the room, but in the industry itself. In the far corner, Jake Milton spotted me. I saw it immediately, the faint stiffening of his posture. The brief flash of recognition, followed by something darker, panic. His smirk, so carefully curated over months, faltered. I moved gracefully across the room, exchanging polite smiles and handshakes with the very clients he had lost. Their eyes lit up at the sight of me, a subtle acknowledgement of the loyalty and dedication they had once valued but that he had dismissed. Clara, walking beside me, whispered, "They're celebrating you. He's noticing." I smiled, faintly, a mix of pride and quiet vindication. The gala, intended as his showcase of dominance and flair, had unknowingly become the stage for my triumph. And as I stood there, surrounded by the recognition and respect I had earned over years, I realized that the real power was not in the event, the lights, or the speeches. It was in the relationships I had cultivated, in the work I had done, and in the unwavering belief that I was worth far more than any title or position. Tonight, the game had changed, and I was winning. The look, the music in the ballroom seemed to fade into the background as Jake's eyes locked onto me. For a moment, the confident, polished CEO faltered. I watched him across the room, standing stiffly, jaw tight, a forced smile that didn't reach his eyes. He had organized this gala to showcase his vision, his success, his control over the agency. Yet here I was celebrated by the very clients he had dismissed, admired for work he thought was outdated, and the realization of what he had lost played across his face like a silent film. I moved among the guests with poise, shaking hands and exchanging smiles. Each handshake, each congratulatory nod, Each whispered compliment from clients was a quiet reminder of the empire he had underestimated. The thrill wasn't in revenge, it was in witnessing the truth reflected in his own eyes. Clara leaned close, whispering, "Look at him. He is speechless." I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. 15 years of dedication, of late nights and sacrifices, had led to this moment, and now, the world saw what I had always known. That experience, loyalty, and true expertise were invaluable. Jake's eyes widened, the smirk gone, replaced by disbelief and shame. His posture, once so commanding, slumped slightly as he watched the clients he had taken for granted applaud me. Every gesture, every interaction, every word of praise was a mirror showing him the cost of his arrogance, and in that look, stunned, humiliated, powerless, I found the ultimate vindication. It was not loud, it was not boastful, but it was absolute. I had been outdated to him, and yet here I stood, the architect of my own success, unshaken and triumphant. The moment lingered, a quiet, piercing testament to what it truly meant to underestimate someone who had spent years building their worth, silently, steadily, with unwavering dedication. A new dawn. The city streets glimmered under the first light of dawn, the skyline painted in soft oranges and pinks. I walked with a calm, measured stride, my portfolio tucked under my arm. For the first time in weeks, months even, I felt truly free. The journey had been arduous: betrayal, humiliation, and the crushing weight of being discarded by someone who couldn't see my worth had left scars. But it had also taught me resilience, patience, and the power of self-belief. I had rebuilt not just my career, but my life. My agency was thriving. Clients returned in droves, trusting not a brand name, but the person behind it, me. Each contract, each successful campaign, was a reminder that loyalty and expertise were never truly outdated. They were timeless. I paused for a moment. At the corner of a quiet street, sunlight catching my hair. I thought of Jake, the young CEO who had dismissed me, whose arrogance had been his undoing. The look he had given me at the gala would stay with me forever, mixture of disbelief, shame, and finally, understanding. But I didn't dwell on it. The past was a lesson, not a burden. My focus was forward, on the life I had reclaimed, and the legacy I was building. I inhaled deeply, the crisp morning air filling my lungs. Each step I took felt lighter than the last. I was no longer loyal to a company, a title, or a boss. I was loyal to myself, and that loyalty was worth more than anything else in the world. As I turned the corner and disappeared into the bustling streets, I carried with me the quiet satisfaction of knowing one truth: those who underestimate the wrong person often live to regret it. And I had lived to rise, unstoppable and unbroken. The city was awake, the world was mine, and the dawn had never felt brighter.